I don't have a 360-degree camera, but I do have a camera that I can spin around 360 degrees. So that's what this video is going to be. Me turning the camera around slowly so you can see the shop. I'll be doing it in two locations so that, you get a better view of everything rather than put it in the middle and you won't see the table saw. And because there are going to be people that are going to ask, my shop is 13 feet wide and 27 feet long. That's 4 meters by 8 meters. All right, so before I go on, talk about a little bit about the dust cleaner. Released a video this morning, out here today, and I finished cleaning up the shop. And my entire time while cleaning up the shop, I had the air cleaner running because that's when it will be running. It'll be running when I do any cutting operations, except for really minor ones. Like if I'm just going to lop something off on the miter saw, I'm not going to bother to turn that on. But any amount of cutting on the table saw or the miter saw or band sawing or anything that creates dust in any volume, I'll be turning this thing on for. So I turned it on today while I was cleaning. I know in the last video I said it wasn't very dirty in here, as in messy, but there is a ton of dust in here that has collected over the past couple of years, because I don't really clean it out type thing. What I want to do this summer is open the doors, open the windows, come in here with the leaf blower and completely blow the whole thing out. Make sure it's completely dust-free. Every surface that's presently covered with dust is cleaned off. And so I figured that would be a good thing to do every year. Anyway, the filters, if you look at them up here, you can see that they're starting to get dirty. I had a comment, I think it was, on whether the filter that's in front of the inlet would get dirtier quicker. And obviously it will to some degree, but as the dirt starts to collect here, right in front of the inlet, where the pressure and velocity is the greatest, it will start to clog up a little bit, and then the rest of the area will pick up that slack until it equalizes that, basically, and then it'll start again. So it'll be a cycle, and yes, basically it'll get dirtier here where the inlet is, but not to a degree where it'll be really noticeable, I think, or reduce the efficiency of these things. So another thing about this, do I plan on replacing them when they get dirty? No, I'll just take them out of here and I'll bring them outdoors and I'll blow the dust out and I'll put them back in. And that way I'll get several years out of them, I do believe. The only thing that can happen is if a hole forms in it because I'm too aggressive with the blower or whatever, something hits it or something like that. Because these things are not cheap. I think they were $27 each, so they're not giving these away. So I'm going to be trying to get the most out of them that I possibly can. So my shop is all cleaned up and it's begging for a new project, but I've got a few smaller ones that I've got to get taken care of before I get into anything bigger. And the next bigger one actually will be to take apart this table saw. I'm having a bit of a problem with it now. This is a problem that I could fix quite easily. I mean, all I need to do is spend a couple hours out here and I could fix it. But I'm taking it as kind of a starting point for building a new table saw. And the first step in that process will be to obviously get rid of this one. And then what I want to do is build a temporary table saw to do all of the cutting with for the real table saw. So then in the final analysis, people can't say, well, you need a table saw to make a table saw, which I fully agree with, because there's no point in making a table saw if you're using an actual table saw. Better to do something that you have temporarily rigged up. So I'm going to start with taking this apart, and then I'm going to be building a really temporary table saw, which will just be a piece of plywood basically with a circular saw screwed underneath and strung across my two sawhorses. That's why I built those sawhorses, by the way. And then with that, I'm going to be building a more permanent temporary table saw, something that you can actually use for more precision work. And I'll be taking this fence that's currently on this table saw, and I'll be putting it on that one. So I'll have, you know, that to reuse. Everything else here, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to reuse the motor for something else. The rest of it is basically homemade stuff anyway, and I've definitely got my value out of it. I did this, what, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and I've been using it ever since, so not bad. So this is the saw that I'm going to be using for both arrangements. For the really temporary one, just plywood, I'll be mounting this underneath. And for the more permanent one, which I'm actually going to be making plans for because I think it's a good thing for people that can't afford a real table saw, or, you know, they might have because you can pick these up at yard sales or all kinds of places like that for really cheap. And if you don't use it in a table saw, you can use it as a circular saw handheld. So that's double purpose right there. But I thought I would make plans for the temporary, permanent table saw as well. And that's what I'll be using up until the new table saw is finished. And as far as progress on a new table saw, I can't, very much like the jointer, I can't make any guarantees on how that will proceed, because I have the design worked out, but I need to make a few changes before I start actually building. And then I need to work on the plans as I go. So it's going to be a long, drawn out process, probably multiple videos, and then maybe some kind of a wrap up at the end. It all depends on how it goes though. But it'll definitely be covered in individual videos that will show a substantial hunk of the progress, I guess.